Welcome, everybody, to your weekly update from your guide to living in the Twin Cities. I am joined today with Cole. Cole, hello. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thanks for jumping on the show with us this morning. We thought it would be helpful to talk about what's actually happening in the Twin Cities market and help everybody understand if you are looking to buy or sell real estate in any way, shape, or form, what exactly should you be thinking about right now? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a bad time to buy? There's a lot of news out there, and I thought, Cole, you're really in the weeds on this stuff, and you might be able to walk through a lot of that with us. So that does that sound good to you?
Yep, absolutely. I'll give as much information as I can.
All right. Um, So, for those that are new to the show or new to this channel, we are your guide to living in the Twin Cities. We talk about the Twin Cities. What is it like to live here? What do we like to do? And being that we're both realtors in this wonderful area, sometimes we talk about real estate. And we get questions all the time right now, especially right now. It's what, April 6th, 2023. There's
Yep.
so much news about interest rates and inventory, and it's a bad time to sell. It's a good time to sell. Like, help us understand, Cole. What are you seeing right now out in the market?
And that's it's totally true. Like we're seeing a ton of media hype about everything being scary. There's still people talking about there being a crash, and they've been talking about it for years. So
Right.
obviously that's not in the near future. But yeah, we're still hearing it. Interest rates are moving around a lot right now. We're kind of in an interesting position because we're moving into like this. We're in spring market, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, the big thing that we're kind of talking about on the team is, if you're thinking about selling or buying, there's so many different things. But like the big thing right now is if people have reached out or have said like I want to list my house or I want to look for something new, but there's nothing out there and interest rates are too high. I'm already in a 3.5%.
Yeah.
Interest rates are already at 3.5. Like why would I sell in order and pay 6.5 now or
Right.
whatever? So um, kind of the education that we're telling people is like, well, why would you want to sell? Like going back to those goals, like do you need more room? Like, did things change? Do you work from home now? Do you need a home office? Can you move further away from the metro and be closer to family and friends and not have to go into the office? So things change for people, like
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So it's mostly kind of going back and just being like, what are your goals? Like if you don't have to move and you don't, if your space is good and everything like that, maybe it's not a great time to sell. But if you ultimately your goal, if you're not super content in your home and you need more space or things changed for you, or you need to downsize, maybe you want to use the equity in your home to purchase your next home. Those are
Right.
all good reasons to still sell.
I it,
As a buyer, oh sorry, go ahead.
well, it just stuck out in my head when you started talking about interest rates in particular, and that being a reason for somebody not to do something. I started sort of laughing inside. Like, that's, to me, that feels like a very rational thing to
Mhm.
think through and not an emotional thing. Like, you're picking potentially your next future house that you're going to fall in love with, and you want to be there. And like, so what, interest rates are what they are. Like,
Right.
that shouldn't stop you from living and enjoying and getting to, some cool outcome that you're trying to get to.
Absolutely. And that's what we're saying, like always going back to why you originally thought about moving in the first place, right? So, yeah, I mean, I always kind of talk, like when I'm talking to people, everyone's like, well, interest rates are so high. I'm like, well, they're still below the 20-year average. Like, we're high compared to the last few years, yes. But we're not probably ever going to get back to that point, right? And so that's what we're educating people on. We're not going to see that again in probably mine or your lifetime.
Yeah.
And if we do, great, but or not, because that probably means something drastic happened again, right? Like a pandemic. So I think people are starting to kind of get used to the idea that rates are going to kind of be around here. I do think, and data says that things will probably Rates will probably drop a little bit, but it's going to slowly kind of continue throughout the year. And we probably won't see much of that till like summer, fall, if it does happen, right? So no one knows. But ultimately, if rates drop too, you're bringing in buyers. So I read in Forbes just recently, I think it was just earlier this week, that when about if rates drop about 1%, it's going to bring in about 5 million buyers.
5 million?
5 million. It's a lot. And
And
we're also coming into the years of the millennials being in their buying age. So, and it was, I don't know how to really say that, but the population of the millennials is huge. So the next few years, we're going to have an influx of buyers because of millennials becoming that home buying age.
sure.
And if interest rates drop, we're going to have an influx of buyers. So,
Which means we're sort of in the same position we've been in for the last few years. Like nothing. I think that's the big takeaway. Like there's a lot of gloom and doom and
mhm,
news out there about why the market's doing what it's doing, but at the end of the day, it's not really all that different than it has been for the last few years.
agreed.
Um,
Hmm.
I mean, I we helped sell a house a couple weeks ago, and it was a really nice house, but a starter home, single family, in it was in Blaine, and we had it on the market in the first first day. We had 5 offers. We had 16 offers by the end of the second day.
Hmm.
So if people are saying, well, rates are making people pause or not do things, or it's not a good time to transact in real estate right now. I mean, that was just one of many listings that we've had where we've had just tons of offers that go right away.
I showed two houses to new clients of mine last weekend, and every house they were, was showing up in their search. They would be like, "Oh, we'd love to see this. Great, highest and best is due tonight."
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
like it's. I mean, these houses are still sitting on. There's if the houses are prepared properly, look good, right,
Yep.
and if they're priced right, they're going to sell. So the houses, and we'll talk about numbers, as we go along here, but houses are sitting on the market a little bit longer, but not the ones that are going to actually sell.
So
And
let's talk.
sell fast and sell high.
You mentioned numbers. Let's jump in a little bit into one of the reports that we like to look at. So, for anyone that's never seen this before, this is from the Minneapolis area Realtors. St. Paul has this. It's all the same data. It pulls out of the actual MLS database that we all have access to. This is for the week ending March 25th. And what I thought was really interesting and would love your thoughts on is the quick facts here. Change in new listings. We're down 28% in the number of new listings this year compared to how many new listings came last year. We had just over 1,000 new listings that hit the market. What do you make of that? Are you seeing a big issue with inventory right now?
Yes, the whole world is. I mean, we just talked with some agents down in Florida because we're building our team down there, and it's everywhere. Like there's just not. I mean, Florida's a little bit more stable than we are, but I think what I read, we're at like a month and a half of inventory, um, which is very low. From what I've heard, we like to be around 4 to 6 months of inventory.
Yeah,
So very
I
low. There's
I
not a
think a
lot happening.
healthy market is like 6 months of inventory.
Yep. Yep.
Which, by the way, we haven't been at 6 months of inventory since 2018.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean, it's
been
been a long, and that again, like we were saying earlier, it really isn't all that different right now than it has been the last few months, even with rates and everything else happening. So if I'm a buyer right now and I'm trying to find a new house and I see listings are down 30%, like how do I find a house?
number one, make sure you're getting educated on how to win. You're still going to be in multiple offers in a lot of these situations, unless you're kind of looking for a house that's potentially a fixer upper, been sitting on the market too long, and if it been sitting on the market for a longer time, and that doesn't necessarily mean the house is not great or going to fit your needs, but just know there's probably a reason why it's been sitting. Again, going back to that, if it's listed at the proper price and prepared properly for the market, it's probably not going to be on the market for very long. So, just working with an agent that's going to be able to educate you on the things to do to win, and housing prices aren't going down. We aren't increasing at the rate that we were a year or two ago. And you can probably talk to this a little bit with your numbers. You're the number guy, but we're still. I mean, I'm still gaining equity in my home. Right, homes are not going down in value, and when there's a low inventory and a high demand, you're going to see higher prices.
Well, and to speak to that exactly, I mean, nice segue into. I think this is a chart I always track. I'm always looking to see what's happening on sales price, and what you're looking at here is the month of February, from 2021, 22, and 23, and you can see what the median sales price for a new listing has been, over the last 3 years. I remember in 2021 when the market was insane, like really insane, right?
Really?
We had never seen anything like it, and it felt like, I mean, you couldn't find anything.
No.
And now here we are 2 years later, and the market has gone up almost 10% in 2 years. And it
Hmm.
continues to grow. If you look on the right side here, every month we continue to see, growth over the prior year in the median sales price. I mean, this is positive, 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 positive. There are no negative months. And
Right.
and that to me is what you're saying earlier. Like inventory is still super low. People still want stuff, so supply is low, demand's high, and prices continue to go up, even with rates going where they're going.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, and rates aren't, like I said, people are going to start getting used to these rates. It's kind of like I liked using the analogy of the gas. Like when gas shot up, we all freaked out. But guess what? You're still buying gas.
Yeah,
You
that's a
know,
good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, and people still need to buy homes. And we always like to say on our team, if you're renting right now, I have a client that I've been talking to for over a year. They're renting and they just never really found anything that they wanted. And guess what? 2 months ago, they got a letter from their landlord. Their rent's going up $500 a month.
500?
Yes, 500, which is ridiculous. So
Jeez.
I immediately was like, well, we got to get you out of there. So we are looking at houses way more aggressively. They're looking at a higher price point than what they were because it makes more sense, obviously, to pay a little bit more for a house than pay 100% interest and pay rent.
Yeah. I know we're talking more on the residential side, but when you mention, rent and investors, it's just one thing that I keep thinking about, is typically when somebody buys a commercial mortgage, which a lot of investors and a lot of landlords have commercial notes, it's a 5 year term, right? It's a sort of normal mortgage, but in 5 years the balloon payments due on almost every commercial mortgage. And so if you think of, people are asking, well, is rent going to come down? Is it going to come down? Is it going to come down? I don't think so, because all these investors that have these notes that are constantly renewing, if I'm at the end of my 5 year term and I'm used to 3 or 4% interest rates, and that's what I had before, and now I'm locking into a 6% interest rate, it's the
Mhm.
same sort of thing that we're talking about on the residential side.
I mean, have you seen a decline in rents?
No,
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 it's the same thing.
no, not at all. I mean,
Yep.
I'm not passing $500 increases on,
Right. Right.
but we've increased. I mean, almost every property,
Hmm.
just to keep up with what the market is. Like we're not above and beyond anything.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's not rents historically go up, house prices, values go up.
Well, as you're saying that, I mean, I'll just show this other chart on the rest of this page. This is the historical sales price for houses in the Twin Cities. And the only period it didn't go up was the Great Recession, right? And there's ebbs and flows. Different months come down versus other months, but it's basically straight up for the last, 12 years.
Yep.
Like, think of the level of correction we would have to get back to even get anywhere close to the
Right.
recession. You know
Well,
what I
and
mean?
the thing that I would say about this too, like I bought my first house in 2005.
Right.
Bought a townhouse, wasn't even married yet to Mark. Like we just were like, we're paying rent and this is stupid, right? We gotta just get something. So we bought our house. We stayed in our house. We bought in 2005. We stayed in our house for almost 10 years.
Sure.
And so we rode through that recession. And did we want out during that recession? Yes. Um, were we underwater? Yes. But we didn't have to go anywhere. Like we don't have to move. So we're
Right.
just going to ride this out. And then when we eventually sold our house and we moved out and rented it out for almost, I think, 2.5, 3 years. And we turned around and made a boatload of equity on it when we sold it.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I would tell people right now. Yes, you might be, people are like, I'm going to overpay, I'm going to overpay. Well, you're not overpaying because that's what the house's value is right now. So, and I would say if you're thinking that you're going to be in a new house for only like 2, 3, 4 years, maybe not the right time to buy.
or
But
or buy significantly under your budget.
right, exactly, or buy under your budget. But if you're going to be in this, if you're a first time home buyer and you're thinking you're going to be in this house, this is going to be your house where you're going to like whatever grow into, and you're going to be there for 6, 7 plus. Absolutely, it's still a good time to
Sure.
buy.
I have one other thing that I wanted to talk about numbers wise.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have anything that you want to jump into, by all means, bring
Sure.
it up. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this. You mentioned, well, we both talked a little bit about on the listing side what to expect. I really like to track this metric. I'm a metrics guy. Cole, you already said that. I like numbers.
You're the numbers guy.
So percent of original list price received, that's basically how much does the house sell for versus what was listed at. So if it was listed at $340,000 and it sold at $340,000, it'd be 100%. I think it's interesting how much it has changed since August. Where I mean, look at the year prior, almost every house was getting multiple offers and selling for way over what it was listed at.
Mm-hmm.
But for the last 6 months, houses are getting listed at a price and they're getting offers that are under that.
Right.
Um, what do you make of that? And are you seeing the same thing with our listings?
I am not seeing that with our listings because we are all very well versed on how to properly get a house ready and price for the market. We're seeing that across the board, I think, because I think sellers' expectations are a little high. I mean, I'd like your opinion on that too, but people are like, my neighbor down the street sold 6 months ago for X, I want X.
Right.
And we're not in that kind of a market any longer. Buyers are sitting on the fence. They are paying a higher interest rate. Buyers do have a little bit more leverage with lending, the buy down rates. They're asking for closing costs. They're doing inspections again. Like there's all these things that are kind of flooding back in that we did 3 or 4 years ago
Sure.
that stopped, in 2021, 2020, 2021. We didn't, a lot of people weren't asking for inspections. People were offering 20% over asking, appraisal gaps. They're, if the house doesn't appraise, we'll pay the cash difference. And so all that stuff, we are seeing less of that also, and as well as not sellers not getting asking price because the expectations are too high.
That's it's I think the my thought when I saw it was very, very similar that it used to be you could throw anything out on the market
It's
and
going to
and
sell.
you would get tons of offers and it would go way over. What did we say 2 years ago? The list price was the opening bid.
Opening bid. Yep. And that's what we told all of our clients too. I mean, I had a client, they she saw a house for 525. We offered 575, no inspection, like, and she didn't win. Like, there was so many crazy things going on, and we're just not seeing that. Buyers do have a little bit more leverage to get under asking if a house is sitting on the market longer. They are in like more and more inspections, like I said, and they're able to negotiate. Where before it was like if you aren't no contingencies, no nothing, you aren't going to win. So,
And before I say this next part, I'll preface we will always do what our clients want us to do at the end of the day. Like we'll guide and give our recommendation, but however you want to do it, it's your call. The thing that I coach sellers on right now is I show this percent of list price, and they may go on Zillow or they may go on some website and say, "Well, my house is worth X dollars,"
Mm-hmm.
and I tend to, I'm not going to argue. Like, sure, here's my thoughts on it. If you guys want to get the most amount of people through and you want to maximize what you're going to get, then we should price under what you think it's actually worth right now,
Right.
because everybody in the world's going to see that it's priced under what you think it's worth or what they think it's worth too, and they're going to come through and they're going to see it.
Yep.
And that just gets them in the door. When they're in the door, if we make it stand out, look beautiful, do all the things that we help you do, stage it, paint if we have to, whatever it is, and they
Mm-hmm.
walk in and like, holy crap, it's underpriced, and I love this house, it looks great. That's how we're able to get the offers we're getting that are still super strong, no contingencies. You're not seeing cash as much, but it still will go super quick if you do it the right way. If you try to be greedy in this market, that's where I feel like people are getting really, really, really stuck.
Right. Yep. I had a neighbor list their house for way over, and all of my neighbors were texting and calling me. Can they get that? I'm like, no, they're not. And they didn't. They took it off the market after 8 months. I was sitting there, and I'm like, they're like, well, why did they try to sell it at that price? I'm like, they just threw a number up to see if they could get it. I'm like, a year ago, 2 years
Yeah.
ago, they maybe would have got that. Not now.
We had friends of ours, we're in Plymouth, and we were over at their house having dinner the other night, and the house down the street for them was on the market for 1.2 million in October. It just
No.
closed for 970,000. Now that's still a ton of money, but
Yeah.
200 grand less than, and they flat out asked me when it went on the market, do you think this will sell? I'm like, I have no, that's insane. I
Yeah.
don't know why they would price it that way, and it sat and sat
But
and
those,
sat.
yeah, but those are the listings we're seeing affect those numbers that you just showed. Those are
Sure.
the listings, and those are the ones that are sitting. So when people tell you houses are sitting longer, it's because they're overpriced. It's
Yeah,
those houses
that's
that
a
are
great
affecting
point.
numbers. Yep.
Well, I don't want this to be just numbers, so I that's what I had to go through. Do you have anything that you would add from the buy side or sell side on things that we didn't cover that you think are really important right now in this market?
No, I would just say that if like I said at the very beginning, if you're at a point where you need something's changed, where you need a new home, or your goals have changed, or anything like that, just make sure that you're working with an agent that can educate you and guide you through the whole process too. Because there are a lot of agents that will be like, "Yep, I can help you," and they'll just let you do whatever you want to do. So I feel like the agents on our team were very straightforward. We're not going to probably tell you everything you want to hear. I had just told a client, I went through her house this weekend, and I'm like, you need to replace this carpet. And she wasn't super happy about it, but she did it. And I kind of went over the fact that she's going to get more people through the door because it'll
Yeah,
look great. And she's going to get her money back plus some on the carpet. So just make sure you're working with somebody that can teach you and guide you through the whole process to get ready to list so that you do get, the most amount of equity that you can. And for buyers, I would just say don't sit on the fence too long because if these rates do drop, there's going to be an influx of buyers coming back into the market. All those people that are sitting on the fence
yeah,
waiting, um, they'll either come back, but don't be the one waiting because there's home prices are going to continue to go up, and
yeah.
then interest rates are going to drop, and then you're going to, I don't know, like I don't know how to explain that middle ground. Like home prices are going to go up, rates are going to drop, so there's like that.
Well,
What's
I don't think there is a middle ground. I think it goes back to what we said earlier. If you're moving because you want something new, it's not about price necessarily. It's about finding the
right?
house that you want.
Right.
And like you said too, if you're going to stay there for an extended period of time, this is not investment advice. We can't guarantee the future of anything, right? But
Right.
historically speaking, if you're going to be there more than 7, 8 years, we've never had a time period of 8 years or more that a house is worth less 8 years later than when somebody bought it. So, like, do it for the right reasons,
Mhm.
and things tend to, I think they work out just fine.
Yep. Agreed.
Awesome. Well, there we go. If you're watching this and saying, "Hey, I would love more info. I need help. Whatever," feel free to reach out to myself or Cole. Cole, what's
Mhm.
the best way to get a hold of you?
My email is Cole, Cole, at drealtyg.com, or give me a call, text, whatever works. My phone number is 612-296-3211.
Perfect. And if you want to talk to me, just drop a comment, or I think there's a email me button on somewhere on the link. But thanks so much for coming on, Cole. I think this was helpful. I mean, it helped me even reframe a few things that I've been talking with people about too. So I thought this was
Sure.
awesome.
We'll
What are
do
you
it again.
doing over the weekend? Any fun plans?
Basketball tournament. It's my life.
For
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah, yeah, no. Not for my little guy. So we'll visit that, and then it's Easter weekend, so going to visit my grandparents because I'm lucky enough to have them still in my
Fun.
life. Yes, and then probably showing some houses if I can, if anything's still available. So
Sure.
yeah. How about you?
Awesome. Um, I am going to cheer on the future national champions, Minnesota Gophers men's hockey team. They play today at 4, and then they're going to play in the championship on Saturday.
Are they home?
No, that's in Tampa.
Okay. Are you
But
going to Tampa?
I looked at going to Tampa, but no, we're just going to watch it here. But I'm very excited. I know I have a tendency to be bad luck when I talk about Minnesota sports teams, but then again, it's Minnesota, so that's what
We're all
happens.
bad.
Well, awesome. Thank you again for coming on. I hope this was valuable for anyone watching this, and stay tuned. We'll be doing more of these on the channel and keeping you all informed of what we're seeing out there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt.
Cool.